Now more than ever, we are seeing it on television. We're seeing it in commercials. We're seeing it in every orifice of television and media. But is it effective? Is it true? Is it performative? Where are we at? We'll start with you, Adrian. What's the temperature you're getting on it?
Okay, so I love that there is more representation, more acknowledgement, more presence. That's extremely important. At the same time, we also need representation and acknowledgement, and essentially just also the capitalistic benefits behind the camera when we're looking at the executive levels and all tiers of the workplace, because we don't want to be in a situation where society is capitalizing and benefiting off of having individuals of the LGBTQIA+ community out front and center in front of the camera, making money off of them, but then not actually embracing individuals at all levels, because we continue to see that often with the Black community and other marginalized groups.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because just recently Janet Mock at the premiere of Pose touched on how they have benefited from having people of the trans experience on shows and out in front, but behind closed doors or behind the scenes, they're not really getting that benefit. And we're gonna talk about trans people in the media, because recently singer Demi Lovato revealed that they are non-binary and are changing their pronouns, telling fans that they are proud to make the change after a lot of self-reflective work. She goes on to say, quote, "I'm still learning and coming into myself. I don't claim to be an expert or a spokesperson. Sharing this with you now opens up another level of vulnerability for me." I think we have her actual statement from her social media. If we could play that, we do have that, I think so. Yeah, I'm sorry, this time we do have this. So take a look.
I want to take this moment to share something very personal with you. Over the past year and a half, I've been doing some healing and self-reflective work. And through this work, I've had the revelation that I identify as non-binary. With that said, I'll officially be changing my pronouns to they, them. I feel that this best represents the fluidity I feel in my gender expression and allows me to feel most authentic and true to the person I both know I am and still am discovering.
That was from Demi Lovato, and that statement was met with a lot of positive response, of course, but also some people felt that Demi once again is in the news, seeking attention, trying to piggyback off of the LGBTQ+ community. That's neither here nor there. Want to also talk about Laverne Cox. I'm gonna send it over to you, Plastic. Laverne Cox was just named the new red carpet host for E!, which is huge for NBC Universal to make this statement in that they've never had anyone of the LGBTQ+ experience, or at least of the trans experience, have that type of role that is front and center for what is probably the biggest award show coverage in the entertainment. What do you think about that?
I love it. I mean, first of all, I think Laverne is a huge name for the trans community. I mean, her role in Orange is the New Black was the brick that smashed that glass wall between Hollywood and the trans community. And I feel like that was really the start of when we were getting a little more attention and a little more play, and we weren't necessarily portrayed as the freaks or the scary things that people were afraid of. Here's this beautiful woman who happens to be transgender and also happens to be an inmate, but she was fabulous, and it just humanized and normalized the trans community. So I feel like to once again take this a step further and bring her into people's homes when they're watching, like you said, the biggest award shows. This is amazing. This is humanizing trans people and showing the world that we're not the monsters that the right portrays us to be. We're daughters, we're sisters, we're wives, girlfriends, like we're human beings too. So I feel like that's huge, and I am so happy for Laverne.
Canela?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything that Plastic said is absolutely true. I mean, it's really significant to be able to have a trans person be directly in the homes of millions of Americans for this award show, because I think it was actually Laverne Cox's documentary Disclosure that said 90% of cis people in the US don't know another trans person. So it's really powerful to then have someone that is so prominent and does such important work like Laverne hosting this show and just showing up as a trans person who is doing everyday things and isn't necessarily focusing the media solely on being trans. That's another thing that is really important to think about when thinking about representation, right? It's like you can't just include trans people when you want to talk about trans issues. Trans people are more than our gender, right? We're a multiplicity, like we're multifaceted people and deserve to be portrayed as such. So I think this is fantastic.
I think it's fantastic as well. And shout out to NBC Universal for, I mean, everything. I feel, I work in entertainment, I watch a lot of television, and I watch a lot of, I keep up with how people are really standing in their allyship, because this time last year, what were we experiencing on social media? A lot of performative allyship when it came to things that were happening in regards to social injustice and the injustices and the violence against people of color and the violence against trans women, namely women of color that are trans, right? So you had a lot of people that were jumping on a bandwagon saying, okay, look, we want to be on the right side of history with this, you guys. So let's make sure we put up our black boxes, we have our rainbow flags, and we say all the right things. But once the fanfare, unfortunately, and I hate to call it fanfare, but once all eyes were starting to turn to something else, they're like, okay, good, we did what we had to do to stay safe. But behind closed doors, they really didn't care. NBC Universal, I think, is antithetical to that. They actually were like, listen, we're gonna actually put our money where our mouth is. And I love how you so eloquently pointed out that being trans isn't, I liken it to, and again, I am not of the trans experience, but just Canela, from what you said, that it's not the whole outfit that you put on every day. It's probably just the socks of the outfit, because there's this shirt, there's the jeans, there's the hair, there's everything else that makes up who you are and how you move through the world. Speaking of the outfit, and something that was very poignant for me recently, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but Elliot Page speaking to Oprah about his journey. First of all, one of the most compelling interviews that I've watched Oprah do, and Oprah, of course, Oprah has done a lot of interviews, but feelings on that, because I'm at a loss for words. Right, what you guys are saying is that I'm at a loss for words. Canela, yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that I was also at a loss for words just at the trans joy and the trans power that really came out in that interview. And I think also the growth that Oprah did over the last even 10 years in terms of researching trans people and researching how to really do this interview in an effective way that isn't just focusing on, Elliot's body, which I think, if you look at any interviews, even with prominent people 15 years ago that were with trans people, you really see a really disturbing trend of just asking about the surgery or asking about, gender affirming care, which, like I said before, trans people are so much more than our bodies, and we're so much more than that facet of our lives. So I think it was really great that she dug a bit deeper to ask Elliot about not just his experience when it came to his medical transition, but also talking about why he decided to come out, and like actually talking about grappling with gender dysphoria as a young person, and like what that meant being a young person in Hollywood and having to hold up this ideal, right? I think that it was just a fantastic interview.
Yeah, Plastique.
I mean, I couldn't be more happier for him. I remember seeing the recent picture of him at the swimming pool or whatever, and I remember exactly where I was when I saw it. I was at Starbucks in the car, and I saw it and I started crying, because I lived that. I know that feeling, and I remember when I finally felt my true authentic self, and it was the most beautiful feeling in the world, because I felt like I finally was me. I wasn't trapped in this prison anymore. And just, you could see that on his face, and his true authenticity was just radiating, and it was beautiful. So I'm so happy for him.
I mean, who better to be able to have that moment with Oprah? And I couldn't agree with you, Canela, about Oprah's growth, because throughout the interview, and everyone watching this at home right now, I implore you to go and watch that on Apple Plus if you can, and just really take a minute to experience it. Because for myself, even though I am of the LGBTQ plus experience, we are the different LGBT and Q of the rainbow. We're all adjacent to each other, but we don't have the same experiences, right? So I learned so much just from listening to Elliot. And one of the things that really resonated with me, I'm gonna quote him from his discussion with Oprah, was this. He said, quote, "I want people to know that not only has it been life-changing for me, I do believe it is life-saving, and it's the case for so many people. It's, getting out of the shower and the towel is around your waist and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're just like, there I am. I mean, wow. People go their whole lives looking for, I would say, that moment of truth, right? Trying to find their moment of truth, and listening to that interview where Elliot talked about Oscar dresses and having to, and the stress and the anxiety of trying on all these dresses and not feeling like himself and his body. It was just one of the best interviews. Adrian, want to get you to chime in. Were you able to view the Oprah Elliot Page interview?
I was not able to go through it completely, but from what I did see, I think Plastic really hit the nail on the head in terms of saying radiating, because you can sense that joy and that it's a completion. It's a wholeness that comes together. And having a lot of friends in the trans community and having them speak with me about their journey, I don't understand necessarily how people do not connect with one another and understand what that feeling is like to just not necessarily feel correct or whole in your own skin. And to give you that power and to be able to have that moment of correctness where you feel like, hey, I am here, I am live. That is so incredibly beautiful.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.